In March 1997, a geologist fell from a helicopter 800 feet above the Indonesian jungle. 6 weeks later, a $6 billion company disappeared. The reason? The gold mine they claimed to own never existed at all. 200 million ounces of gold, the largest discovery in history. Except it was all a lie, and the man who knew the truth took it with him when he jumped. David Walsh was broke, not just struggling, bankrupt. In 1992, he declared personal bankruptcy after years of failed business ventures. The guy had tried everything and lost everything. But Walsh was a gambler, and gamblers don't quit. In 1993, a Filipino geologist named Michael de Guzman approached Walsh with a story. Deep in the jungles of Borneo, Indonesia, there was a site called Busang. De Guzman believed there might be gold there. Not a little gold, a lot of gold. Walsh scraped together what money he could and bought the mining rights to this remote Indonesian property. He founded Bre-X Minerals. The stock traded at 30 cents per share, a penny stock, a lottery ticket. Nobody was paying attention. Then, in October 1995, Bre-X made an announcement they had found gold at Busang. A massive deposit. The stock shot up to almost $15 in a single day. But that was just the beginning. Over the next 18 months, the estimates kept growing. First, 30 million ounces, then 42 million, then 70 million. Eventually, Bre-X claimed they had found 200 million ounces of gold worth billions of dollars. The stock climbed from pennies to over $250 per share. Walsh went from bankrupt to billionaire. On paper, at least, the market capitalization of Bre-X hit 6 billion Canadian dollars. Major institutions piled in. Fidelity owned almost 16 million shares. Prestigious analysts issued buy ratings. The media called it the greatest mineral discovery of the century. Walsh became a Canadian business hero. His vice chairman, John Felderhoff, sold $84 million worth of shares in 1996. Everyone wanted a piece of the dream. But dreams this big don't come from hard work. They come from desperation. Deep in the Indonesian jungle, Michael de Guzman was running the most sophisticated mining fraud in history. The method was simple but brilliant. It's called salting. Here's how it works. You drill into the ground and pull up core samples of rock. Then you send those samples to a lab to test for gold content. That's how mining companies prove they have a valuable deposit. But de Guzman was doing something else. He was crushing the rock samples and mixing them with gold dust purchased from local markets. Then he sent the tampered samples to the labs. The tests came back showing high gold content because there was gold in the samples. It just wasn't from underground. De Guzman did this thousands of times over several years. Every sample was rigged. Every test result was fake. Courts later described the fraud as unprecedented, intelligently planned, sophisticated enough to fool even expert geological consultants. The entire $6 billion valuation was built on gold that came from jewelry shops and riverbeds, not from the ground at Busang. There was no massive underground deposit. There never had been. But keeping a lie this big requires complete control. And Bre-X had it. For years, the company refused to allow independent geologists to verify their findings. Only consultants hired by Bre-X were allowed to test the samples, and those consultants only saw what de Guzman wanted them to see. The salted samples, the fake results. Everyone believed because everyone wanted to believe. $6 billion was riding on this jungle fantasy. But fantasies don't survive contact with reality. In early 1997, the Indonesian government made a decision. The Busang deposit was too valuable for Bre-X to develop alone. They forced a partnership with Freeport-McMoRan, a respected American mining giant with decades of experience. Freeport would help develop the mine. But first, they needed to verify the deposit. Standard due diligence. They sent their own geologists to Busang to check the samples and examine the geology. De Guzman knew what was coming. Freeport's geologists weren't hired by Bre-X. They weren't going to see salted samples. They were going to see the truth, and the truth was, there was nothing there. The discrepancies showed up immediately. The geology didn't match Bre-X's claims. The sample results didn't make sense. Freeport started asking questions. On March 18, 1997, Guzman tried to kill himself by drinking an entire bottle of cough medicine. He told a colleague named Rudy Vega he was having suicidal thoughts. The walls were closing in. The fraud was about to be exposed. The next morning, Guzman boarded a helicopter heading to the Busang site. Freeport's auditors were waiting for him. He never arrived. March 19, 1997, 10:30 in the morning. 800 feet above the Indonesian jungle, Michael Guzman opened the helicopter door and fell. Handwritten suicide notes were found in the aircraft. 4 days later, a body was recovered from the jungle, badly decomposed, eaten by animals. Difficult to identify. The official ruling was suicide. But questions remain. Did he jump? Was he pushed? Some people believe he faked his own death and escaped. The truth died in that jungle, but the fraud couldn't die with him. Freeport-McMoran released their findings. Significant discrepancies in Bre-X's data. Trading was suspended. Rumors spread that there was no gold. An independent auditor, Strathcona Mineral Services, was brought in to investigate. 6 weeks after Guzman's death, Strathcona confirmed what Freeport had found. The samples had been tampered with, salted. There was virtually no recoverable gold at Busang. The stock lost over 80% of its value in a single day. Soon, it was completely worthless. $6 billion evaporated. Mutual funds were decimated. Bre-X filed for bankruptcy. Investors lost everything. David Walsh died in June 1998 from a brain aneurysm. He was never charged. John Felderhoff faced securities charges but was acquitted in 2007 after a 10-year legal battle. Nobody ever served time for the largest mining fraud in history. The rich walked away. The investors paid the price. Here's what every investor should have seen. First, demand independent verification. Bre-X controlled the entire testing process for years. Only consultants they hired touched the samples. When an independent company finally checked, the fraud unraveled in weeks. This pattern repeats. Theranos refused independent blood test verification. Bernie Madoff blocked real audits. If a company resists third-party verification, walk away. No exceptions. Second, a founder's bankruptcy is a massive red flag. Walsh declared bankruptcy just 5 years before the supposed discovery. Desperate people take desperate measures. Before investing, research the management team's history. Previous bankruptcies, serial failures, lawsuits. Ask yourself if this person has more to lose than to gain from fraud. Someone already wealthy risks prison. Someone with nothing to lose risks nothing. Third, when something seems too good to be true, it is. A penny stock becoming a $6 billion company in 4 years, claiming the largest gold discovery in history. Markets are competitive. If this deposit was real, why hadn't professional mining companies found it? Why was a bankrupt stock promoter the one who struck gold? Superlative claims require superlative evidence. Always. Fourth, diversification protects against sophisticated fraud. Even Fidelity lost hundreds of millions on Bre-X. Professional analysts were fooled. Geological experts were fooled. You cannot research your way to perfect safety. Determined fraudsters will beat even professionals. Never put more than 5 to 10% of your portfolio in a single investment, no matter how convinced you are. The goal isn't avoiding all frauds. That's impossible. The goal is surviving them when they happen. The Bre-X fraud proved that greed makes people blind. Walsh wanted to believe Guzman because believing made him a billionaire. Investors wanted to believe because believing made them rich. Nobody asked hard questions because hard questions threatened the dream. But in finance, paranoia is a survival skill. Trust but verify isn't just advice. It's the difference between keeping your money and watching it disappear into a jungle that never had any gold to begin with. Next week, we expose another billion-dollar lie hiding in plain sight. Subscribe so you don't miss the next collapse. And if you spotted even one of these red flags while watching, hit that like button.